Hey guys, thank you so much for joining today. We are here today for Dialogue Starter, an interview series where we talk to change makers from different fields and who are doing stellar work. Good evening and thank you so much for joining us today. We have with us today someone really special. Allow me to introduce him. We have with us Rajendra Hegde. He's a doctorate in agricultural entomology from University of Agricultural Sciences, which is in Harvard, and he has specialized in integrated pest management. He has worked at various capacities involving both rural urban agriculture. He's the founder of BRICS, that is BRICH, which stands for Biological Research Innovation Center and Solutions. The idea is to focus on products that are useful in production of safe and functional food, as well as using natural and safe household and personal care products, for example, made out of soap nuts and shikakai and things like that. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. We are super
Thank you.
excited and more than happy to host you. Like we know, today's topic is around urban foodscapes. It's a topic that not many people must be aware of, at least in this terminology. So why don't we just directly start with that? Could you talk to us about what is this term urban foodscapes? What does it mean?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, friends. So, for all of you that who have joined from different places on Dialogue Space, specifically uh, taking the examples of Bengaluru or many other cities, gardening is not new. That people used to grow different type of plants, maybe tulsi, roses, maybe jasmine, hibiscus. Many people love to have hibiscus, varieties of hibiscus and other things.
Right.
See, the urban foodscapes, in place of these flower plants, in place of these ornamental plants, can we grow something which is useful in your kitchen? Maybe a food crop.
Right.
So the idea behind this urban foodscape is that see, we don't have that much of space today in places like Bengaluru, where the population has reached 1.2, 1.3 crores. So
Right.
to manage the urban population or the require the urban population, so maybe infrastructure, houses, and many other things. So we have used not even inch of land.
Correct.
That much of space is not there today. So in the small spaces, instead of or in place of ornamentals, in place of flowering plants, in place of lawns, can we grow food crops using natural or organic safe methods of cultivation.
Right.
So that can be used in our kitchen on a daily basis. Urban foodscape, in simple terms, growing food crops in simple small spaces with simple practices.
Right. Thank you for putting it very simply for us. That kind of brings me back to one of the things that you introduced me to, which was this uta from your own tota, which was started by which was started by Vishwanath around his family. It's around the concept of eat what you grow and grow what you eat. Basically, you are responsible for what goes into your body. So please, use your own space and cultivate what you eat. Could you talk to us a little bit about that project and what it is?
Yeah. A small correction, not Vishweshwaraya, Dr.
Sorry,
Vishwanath.
my bad. Okay.
See, Dr. Vishwanath Kadur, of course, he is also an entomologist,
Okay.
Agriculture University, Dharwad. And sometime, of course, for Bengaluru being a garden city, as I was telling you, that we were all growing different type of plants and we were having lots of plants. Of course,
Right.
I am not a Bengalorean, I am just Bengalorean from last 20 years.
Right.
Dr. Vishwanath is born and brought up in Bengaluru. He has seen the changes in Bengaluru over a period of time.
Right.
Of course, for the information today, he just died on 9th of August at
Oh.
78 years of age, and we are all probably trying to give some kind of tributes to him today, taking his name.
Right.
So, what happened? So, he always used to explain this in 1995 or maybe 94, 95, that time. So, when he was coming to Bengaluru by flight from
Right.
Delhi, So somehow that he could not land in time because of some reason, and it got the flight had one or two rounds on Bangalore, and he could make out the empty spaces, the terraces having so much of empty spaces. We don't have ground space, only that much of empty space. So then he thought, anyway, this space that we should consider or encourage people to use this space for growing plants.
Right.
So that time, of course, 1995, he started promoting, he started doing some workshops, he started doing some sessions, and he was also not knowing much that how to grow a food crop in a container, because he is basically an agriculture scientist and he always worked with farmers.
Right.
So none of these people who are staying in Bangalore, 99.9% are not farmers. They are all probably service people and maybe are having other type of businesses or entrepreneurs.
Right.
So he started slowly doing these kind of workshop sessions and other things, promoting urban foodscapes, promoting growing your own food. And when it is food, food has to be safe and functional.
Correct.
So that means that it has to be grown with all these safer, natural, organic processes. You cannot use, you are not a farmer, you cannot use a chemical fertilizer, because we are already in a polluted environment.
Right.
So for that purpose, so he started promoting only organic, biological, natural processes for growing food crops. So
Right.
food is food. See, we have started using the word organic today. Otherwise, maybe 35, 40 years back, so food is food. So organic is that adjective is not required. So that way, in 1995, he started promoting and all these things. And of course, I joined him in 2005, 10 years later.
Okay.
So by that time, of course, he had some whatever possible as a single-handed entity or a person that he started doing, and he was doing. Then when I joined him in my earlier organizations or wherever we were working, we started or making a format for workshops or the sessions. So then, being a scientist, of course, he was also a scientist, I am also a scientist. So we wanted to do some basic studies of container gardening, what kind of crops can be grown, what can't be grown, so what should be suggested, what kind of combination that we should use. So
Correct.
all these things that started researching in our small limited spaces, in our terraces, whether in our office, in our houses and other things.
Right.
So then from 2005 to 2011, we did all these studies, and we formatted, we formulated, we published a book, Organic Terrace Gardening, in the name of Dr. Vishwanath, Organic Terrace Gardening. So then in 2011, we formed an NGO called Garden City Farmers, exclusively to work on terrace gardening, that to growing food crops. So not that we are against flowers, not that we are against ornaments or something. As I said, that we want to suggest people start growing food crops, because food what you are eating is not safe, or maybe with lots and lots of poisons and lots of toxins. The food what you are eating is not clean, because that is grown with the kind of water growing from our houses.
Right.
And the food what you have to think of growing has to be always safe and functional.
Correct.
So that way, so we started suggesting, so made a format so that these kind of crops can be grown. So when we started, when we formed this Garden City Farmers as an NGO in 2011, we made some format. What kind of activity that we should get involved?
Right.
One is workshops.
Right.
The second thing is, when we have conducted workshops, many people who have attended the workshop started asking us, sir, where should I get a seed?
Correct.
Good quality seed which are suitable for urban foodscapes, maybe early maturing variety, natty variety, local varieties, pest tolerant varieties. So people started asking, sir, where we get the containers, different type of containers. Sir, I want to, maybe somebody asking the mud pots, someone asking plastic pots, someone asking coir pots, someone asking jute pots, someone asking grow bags. So we are not the producers, and we are not commercial entities.
Right.
So then we thought that we should probably conduct an event or a kind of exhibition, so to promote this, which should have exhibition on urban foodscapes, which should have maybe exhibitors or the people who can supply compost, who can supply containers, who can supply seeds, who can supply seedlings, who can supply plant protection materials, all these things. At that time, the that we chose is Uta from your Tota. Maybe little confusing. Uta from your Tota is food from your garden, but the idea is not to give food. Idea is to suggest them. Idea is to tell them or bring awareness among them that food is very important. You think of growing your own food. So that way, so the word Uta from your Tota came. So idea is to promote urban foodscapes in simple manner, as I said earlier.
Right. I think it's very relevant in today's times as well, right? Where the idea is to have good immunity, good systems, and to have control over your own body. And the idea that, if you grow your own food with safe practices, without having any other interventions, I'm sure it's a cycle, right? So you eat, then again you help in fostering that, and then that fosters other ecosystems. So definitely, it's an idea that we must all at least consider and think about. So which brings me to the next question. You did mention a little bit about, there are certain crops that you can grow, there are certain crops that you cannot grow. Then there are limitations, there's a certain procedure you take. Of course, I don't want you to give away the entire thing, but if you could give us an example and talk to us a little bit about, what are the limitations, what is the one crop that you can, grow, what is it that you can't, and things like that.
Yeah, see, basically, see, now when it comes to food, that we always think, especially South Indians, we always think of rice.
Right.
We always think of ragi.
Right.
We always think of maybe different type of pulses.
Right.
But that for growing these kind of grain crops, what you need is huge spaces, huge lands.
Right.
So that is not possible, not practical in this small spaces. One reason. Second reason, though the farmers, I am not blaming. I am from a farming background, a farming scientist. But the farmers use plenty of chemicals as fertilizers and pesticides. But in these grain crops, what happens if they use it also, by the time it is in your kitchen, it will take about 2-3 months time.
Right.
By that time, the residue gets reduced. So it may not be there. It may not be very dangerous to us if you use up to 2-3 months time. The problem is with the vegetables, fruits, which are supposed to be, by definition, which are supposed to be consumed fresh,
Right.
not to be stored in fridge for 1 week or 10 days and start using cold storage and other things. It is just to help the farmers. So if we are getting some apples and other things from New Zealand or California or something, that they have to be stored for long time, because of that only it is coated to wax coating. So all those things are there. That is to help the farmers. One way of looking at it. So that way, only we have to think of growing those crops which are supposed to be consumed fresh. As you specifically asked, I will give you one simple example.
Right.
See, in our food, that many of us like brinjal, many of us like bendi, many of us like tomato, many of us like beans. So these crops, that the farmers use different type of pesticides, chemical pesticides, highly hazardous pesticides. And we call it as fourth generation, 4G, 5G pesticides have come. They are neurotoxic, they are carcinogenic. So these kind of pesticides, when they use, generally it is suggested to go for a PHI, pre-harvest time interval, pre-harvest interval, PHI. So that means after spraying, the farmers have to wait for at least 15-20 days to harvest the crop and send it to the market. But just imagine a bendi crop or a brinjal crop, if he sprays and if he waits for 20 days, it cannot be used. It will be over matured. So farmers, what they do is that one side that they will be spraying, the other side they will be harvesting and sending it to the market. On the other hand, for their house, they have a separate place which is not sprayed with things that they know it is highly poisonous. Many farmers practice this, that they know that what they are doing is highly dangerous or something like that. So that way, for us as urban foodscapes, one is that you need fresh vegetable, one is that you need fresh fruit, one is you need safe food, one is that you need simple methodologies to practice, that maybe in a container or maybe directly if you are putting on the ground. Maybe some of us are lucky having some space at the front and having some space at the backyard.
Correct.
Those who can grow as a kitchen garden or something like that. But the practices have to be very simple. For this, for the urban foodscapes, vegetables, fruits, maybe some herbs, medicinal plants. So medicinal plants also, you see, I am putting it very straight. Medicinal plants are not ornamental plants. If you are growing them, you should use them. So you should learn how to use that medicinal plant, all the properties. Otherwise, grow palak. Otherwise, grow coriander, or grow maybe sabasige, grow amaranth, grow tomato, grow chili, grow radish, grow maybe many other beans.
Right.
Or if you have some space, curry leaf, which is required on a daily basis. You can think of having 1 or 2 lemon plants, drumstick,
Right.
ivy gourd, tondekai. So like this, there are at least you can select out that 15 to 20 types of plants. Keep on maybe circulating. See if you are fed up with brinjal, so stop it one day. Another 6 months, I will not grow brinjal. I am fed up with brinjal. So that
Right.
decision that you can take, but you list out that 20 plants which can be grown in small spaces in containers. Container gardening is a must. See, let me just quickly tell you. See, you may be having a ground space, but what we have done is that we have tied it. So you cannot plant directly in the soil now. So you have to use containers. If you have ground space also, maybe a big front yard you may be having, but you have tied it in such a manner that you cannot plant on the ground. So
Right.
that time also that you have to use the containers. So that way, urban gardening, urban foodscapes is mostly the container gardening today. Like that, like maybe other flower plants and ornamentals as
Right. I think one of the important things that you did bring up now is when you think about urban foodscape, the idea is that we live in very constricted and confined spaces, right? Especially in the metropolitan cities, it's about large spaces, large buildings, more space. Of course, one way of combating that is through vertical gardening or step gardening and things like that. So could you suggest us those alternatives and talk to us a little bit about vertical gardening as well, as an option for those who think that they cannot do it out of their balcony or that they have a small space? So could you suggest an idea for that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So specifically, you specifically asked about vertical gardening. See, we have 3 spaces, as I said. One is terrace spaces, one is
Right.
the balcony space, one is the
Right.
ground space. So
Right.
probably on the terraces you can spread it out. You may be having maybe even a 30-40 site also. You will get about 500, 600, 700, even 800 square feet of space on the terrace.
Correct.
So ground, if you are having maybe 500,000 square feet, you may get.
Right.
So think of houses which are having small spaces. See, I am also sitting in a flat, 8th floor
Right.
apartment. So,
Right.
so many houses in Bengaluru. If I am correct, I was told that we have not less than 750 apartment complexes, big one having maybe more than 200 houses.
Right.
Then there are small. There are many houses are there, small units.
Right.
So 40 unit apartments or the 50 flat apartments or something like
Right.
that. So for them, how much of space that they have in the balcony?
Correct.
What they will be having maybe about 50 square feet or 100 square feet space. If all the bedrooms, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom houses, all the bedrooms, if they're having balconies in all this, maybe 100 square feet.
Correct.
So even that space, people who are especially those who are maybe 60 plus, 70 plus, they have village roots. For them, growing plants is not a big issue at all. Well, they know everything: seeds, seedlings, planting, watering, composting, everything. Only for them, the issue is that space. So
Right.
you have to create space for them to spend their time very meaningfully. See, elderly, so they have some time. So if they don't have this kind of activity, they have to probably sit in front of the TV watching movies, or maybe for a small walk or that. But the kind of situation now, the pandemic, that we are
Right.
sitting and doing it, that they cannot even go out also. What they have to do?
Right.
So that time, this small space, you can use it in vertical farming. There are different methods, simple methods, very simple methods. This kind of hangers have come. See, you can just see these kind of hangers. See, maybe pudina, or this in the background that you can just make out
Right.
all these hangers
Right.
having palak, the
Right.
coriander,
Right.
the pudina, tulsi plant,
Right.
tomato we have, brinjal we have, chili we have. All those are hanged on the balcony grills
Right.
from outside. They need little more light.
Right.
See, the one which are inside, they are all maybe succulents, shade-loving orchids, anthuriums, and other things which will be inside, because they need little less light compared to whatever, even the outside is also not that much of light. So here the vertical farming is nothing but growing plants using the vertical spaces. You may have to use hangers, you may have to use stands, you can fix the support systems to the walls
Right.
if the wall is facing towards the light. So those kind of systems, or you can have the pipes so that water can be slowly released, and you can think of even hydroponic. I do not suggest, because hydroponics as of today is more of chemical farming, but so if you think then I want to have some plants, or even the hydroponic systems and other things, the pipe garden can be organized. So all these systems is for the small spaces where you don't have the big
Space or
space. You have to have use the vertical spaces. So
right.
that way, the only thing is light is a must for growing different type of plants. So they
Right.
are all the ones which produce their food on themselves. So they need light for the photosynthesis purposes. So if it is east facing balconies, they are very good. The
Okay.
plants grow better. The quality of light in the morning is always good. And so if it is the east facing balcony, they are very good. West facing balcony, so we have west facing balcony, we always suffer. But you have to select out those plants which need little less light.
Right.
So that selection of plant is very important, whether it is in the balcony garden or the terrace garden. That is also always there. But simply, if in the balcony garden, if you are looking at, so you have to look for keep the plants which need more light in the east facing balcony. So you can use the plants or the crops which need little less light in the west facing balcony. That is the only thing that you have to work out as vertical farming. Otherwise, there is no principle wise, there is no variation in growing plants in the terrace. There is no variation in growing plants in the balcony or in the ground. Principle wise, everywhere you have to have seeds, you have to have plants, you have to put compost, you have to put water. All those principles, you need light. See, all those principles of growing plants won't change.
Right.
So that selection that you have to make depending upon the situation that what you have, whether it is
Right.
vertical farming. Vertical farming is just to adjust the time space. You don't have space, so you are using the vertical space.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, that helps a lot to for those who cannot afford to have this space. My next question is a little bit more about the process, right? You did tell me that it's not very different from, say, normal gardening, but just for us to identify, could you break down the steps for us, right from procuring the seeds, or what the procedure is, and if at all there's a difference in the process?
That we put very simply. See,
Okay.
now this is true with the farmers also. But
Okay.
let me take the specific case of urban foodscapes.
Okay.
What you need is seeds. Initially, you have to search for seeds. So seeds, generally, that it has to be local type, nati types, because they have evolved in this kind of environment. They know which time of the year there will be disease problem, which time of the year insect problem. During that time, how should I tolerate?
Correct.
So for that purpose, you should always consider using the local type. Then
Okay.
once you have seeds, you should know how to plant them. Maybe
Correct.
sometimes you may have to use the broadcasting method. Sometimes you may have to use the transplanting method. If it is transplanting, you have to have seedling trays and other things, so
Right.
that you can just plant, raise the seedlings and transplant it. Or sometimes direct planting. Then
Could you break down
it is a
these
simple.
processes also simply, just before you move on to the next step? What you just said, the
Yeah, 1 minute.
broadcasting, transplanting.
Yeah, see, all these processes. Once you have seeds and seedlings, the next process is that you have to search for the containers. What kind of containers that I should use?
Right.
Whether I should use the mud pot, may not be practical, may not be available in Bangalore. So you may have to go outside Bangalore to get this. Plastic pot, fiber pots, coir pots, or different container is not an issue. What goes inside the container is the issue. Now you have, then you should think of where can I keep the containers. So whether the light is sufficient, this light is, so I think it is little less. Can I put little shade loving plants here?
Right.
There I am getting very good light. I will keep some light loving plants there. So
Right.
that is the kind of, depending upon the light.
Right.
Once you have light, then you should think of water, whether you have water. So to add sufficient water and something like that. So then once you have water and that, you have to think of the growing medium, what kind of growing medium that should add into these containers. So that is the probably I suggest that you should all learn. We should all learn to do the composting at home composting practices. All of us can produce at least 10 kgs of compost a month, and you can have 4-5 plants. You can go on adding 4-5 plants every month. So that way home composting is very, very simple, and it is possible, and it is a very significant or obligation from our end towards the society. So then once you have all these things, the next process probably, see, some plants, so they are by nature climbers.
Right.
They are not by nature
Right.
creepers. You may have to give the
Right.
support. So that process also you have to understand. So process the support means that it should not be shaking. It should be a fine, very good support. See, the plant should feel comfortable that I will not fall down, or you have to keep on tying this. So that
Right.
you, it's a logic that you will understand. Then once that even on the fourth floor, third floor terrace, tomato plant also may need support, because
Right.
otherwise it will mechanically break. So
Right.
you have to give the support. Then you like this. Many of these. The another important point is that we generally tend to compare ourselves with farmers. See, for me, as you were introducing, that I'm basically an agriculture entomologist, and we love insects. But people ask us how to kill insects. That is not the purpose. Make, as you specifically ask, make the understand the processes and practices so nicely that the plants come up so strong, so robust, that probably you may not need any plant protection procedure at all. So that
Right.
we'll discuss. But that way, so these are the simple processes that if you, whether it is in the farming, whether it is in the terrace gardening, same thing. So you need to realize, you need to understand that I am a gardener, I am not a farmer.
Right.
So sometimes that you may use the methi seeds or the coriander seeds from your kitchen and start planting. That is fine.
Right.
Or maybe sometimes you may take a red chili and put the seeds in to get the chili seedlings. So you may get some tomato from the market and use it and to get some seeds and plant it. So that's also
Right.
fine. Not necessarily that you have to search and go for a nursery to get the seedlings. So that way, so to initially, once you have learned, probably you will learn better and you can do it. So simple processes, not complicated, very much doable, and we should all do it.
Right. Right. So when we talk about urban foodscape or doing home gardening at our own homes, right? There are two problems or two things that everybody thinks about. One is, of course, the pest or the insects that you did bring up. The second would be water, right? And the usage of water. So I want to delve a little bit into that. And I want to talk to you a little bit about recycling of gray water and talk to us about what is gray water. It's a term that not a lot of people do know, and not something that a lot of people relate to. So could you talk to us a little bit about that, its importance as well?
Yeah, let me bring up water first. So as I was telling you that to do gardening, water is a must. Without water, there cannot be. See, you cannot just say there is something which is a dry land plant, and if you want to grow, for that also little bit of water is required. But we are trying to grow food crops. Food crops means every day that you have to give water. Depending, of course, if you on the terrace on a rainy day, it is not a hard and fast rule that you have to give water every day, and if it is raining also you have to give water, not like that, but water is required. So but for me, and probably you, many of you are Bengalians and from the cities who are all listening, just understand that we are fighting for water, we don't have water.
Right.
So if, as at least for me as a scientist, if I suggest someone to grow food crops using the potable water, it is a criminal offense on my part. As a facilitator, we will not do that. So we always say that we should think of recycling water. Every household has 100 liters of water. So you should think of using how to get it. See, from your washing machine. So you may get about 50 liters of water every day if you are using maybe front load or top load, whatever may be the case. That from the washing machine that you will get 50 liters of water. How to collect it? We will discuss on that. Or probably many of you can think of, send questions to us. We will discuss. From the RO water, many of us are, RO itself is a wrong method, but people are using RO system today. where 3 liters will be going to the drain and 1 liter we are getting.
Right.
So what to do with that RO reject water? We should use it. It is a grey water. So that way, specifically as you asked, what is grey water? Grey water is from your washing machine, from your washing area, maybe dishwashing area, from your hand washing area, from your wash basins, from your bathing, maybe from the bathrooms. These are all called grey water. Black water is the one which is from the toilets,
right,
or the commodes. So
right,
which we are not used to. See, we as Indians, somehow we are not used to this usage of black water. There is only two. Black water is from the toilets or the commodes, including bathrooms. It is grey water only. So think of correcting it, filtering it. Will apply the filter mechanism. That I am not suggesting that we should just correct and straightforward that you should use it. There is plenty of filter mechanisms are available today. So if you can collect it. So only thing is, as of now, in the places like Bangalore where we are sitting, there is no separate mechanism to collect the black water and the grey water. Everything from our household, the waste, the water from your washing area, bathrooms, and everything goes in the same pipe and gets into the drain.
right.
So that is where we are not in a position to differentiate separately. Of course, nowadays the new apartment complexes and other things that they are planning for the STPs and other things, that they have it. The toilet water will go into the drain, which goes into the discard, or the grey water will be processed and used at least for the gardening purposes. In our household also, maybe independent houses also, rainwater harvesting is always there, but may not be sufficient. So this grey water, at least 100 liters of water, if you can collect and use it for gardening, then you can use it. Now the issue is safe grey water practices.
Right.
So many of you will be you say, yes sir, we learned all these things, but see, in our washing machine, in our hand washing places, in our dishwashing places, we are using different kind of the chemicals, as soaps, as cleansers, as detergents. Can we use that water for gardening? That is not the right way of putting or using that water for gardening. It is not correct. You should think of safe kind of cleansers. Maybe soapnet based cleansers, maybe shikakai based cleansers, microorganism based cleansers, or we call it as even bioenzymes, maybe citrus, and this kind of materials can be used to generate cleansers. Cleaning, many of you may be knowing, cleaning is the activity of scrubber. It is not the activity of the soap. So it's a misconception somewhere that the high lather or more foaming gives better cleaning or something. It is not correct. Foaming or lather has nothing to do with cleaning.
Right.
So cleaning is a simple process. So that way, so if you practice all these safer practices, simple cleansers in your houses, all that water can be used for gardening without any reservations. If you do not have garden also, if you do not have garden, if you are not using garden, not using water for gardening purposes also, as more privileged, more educated urbanites, we have an obligation not to contaminate the water bodies, not to contaminate the lakes. See, all our lakes in Bangalore, especially, of course, in other cities also same thing. See, they are all so much of lather that we are seeing, so much of foam that we are seeing. All this is because of the bad practices that we follow in our houses. So somewhere, somehow, we need to understand and realize that the cleansers that what we are using is, they are all synthetic, more foaming. If you put a drop of Lifebuoy or any other soap, not to take the name here, but so if you get more foam, that it is highly dangerous to your water bodies, your soil environment, and probably to the whole ecosystem as such. So water is required. Every household has water. 100 liters of water every household has, maybe from the washing machine or washing area, and with 100 liters of water you can have 100 plants. Now imagine how much space you have, how much of plants that you can start growing.
Right. I think that is very detailed and very nicely put about how we can reuse water, and it is it's not just our responsibility, but also an obligation that we should do this as citizens. Which brings me to the second point that I did bring up, which is pests and that is your area of interest as well. So I would like you to talk a little about how we can evade around pests and how some of these insects are also important to us, right? Could you talk to us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Let me back quickly. See, now as I said, the insects are part of this system.
Right.
So probably if you take a statistics terms, more than 75% of the living creatures on this universe, if you put all the living things on this universe, maybe in a pie diagram or something like that, 75% of them are maybe insects. Insects are the ones which are the having what is that, six legs and the combination creatures and other things.
Right.
So human, if you take the humans now, so in the universe today, about 5,500 plus defined mammals are there. So of this 5,500 mammals, if you put all these small things, now humans are a small dotted line.
Right.
So in the whole of mammals, mammal itself, the number of mammal itself is 5,500 of compared to 75% of insects in this universe,
Right.
and they have come to this place millions of years before us. So somewhere somehow you have to think that this land belongs to them, not to us as humans. So it is always live and let live principle when it comes to crop production, at least when it comes to urban foodscapes, because I understand that if it is in the farmers case, that this is their livelihood, so they have to grow more food, probably managing, or maybe sometimes even we use the word control today, so controlling insects sometimes that they will use it. But in our case, that it is not our livelihood, we want to add value, we want to create, we want to develop the kind of urban ecosystem or urban biodiversity which probably we have destroyed in last 30-40 years.
Right.
So at least in our case, that we should not be using any of these kind of methods which is destroying. So
Right.
that way, first principle is that this land belongs to them, and we have to understand somewhere that we should also go with them. But
Right.
still, there are some insects which are highly dangerous. So maybe taking examples of urban foodscapes, there are some insects, the white insects, we call it as mealybugs. See, it will be all along your hibiscus, all along your crotons, and all many of the plants that you will see. Sometimes that we will have aphids which cause the curling, maybe upward curling, downward curling, or something like that. We call them as thrips, we call them as mites, we call them as white flies, we call them as scales. So all these insects which are called as sucking insects, basically which sucks the juice from the plant and make the plant unviable. They may not kill the insect, but
Right.
they will make the plant unviable. There will not be flowers, there may
Right.
not be fruits, the leaves are curling, so not looking nicely, so
Right.
you are not happy. So that
Right.
those kind of insects, probably we have to, for me, I seriously feel, based on my last 15-16 years of experience of urban foodscapes, only these sucking pests are highly dangerous in
Okay.
urban. The other type of insect is biting insects, which make holes, which
Right.
cut the leaves,
Right.
which maybe cut the flowers, which bore
Right.
into fruits.
Right.
So they are all biting. Their mandibles, their the teeth is very advanced. So
Yes.
they can just pierce into the fruit. So those kind of insects are not that dangerous in urban system. In farmers case, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But in urban system, they are not that. The advantage here is that, as I was telling you, we are using multiple crops. We are not using only maybe acres of paddy, acres of sugarcane, acres of cotton, that kind of crop that we are growing 10 different type of plants. See, here
Right.
also, if you see, I have so many different type of crops here.
Right.
So they that also helps in managing the insects. Insects are confused. See,
Right.
when I put coriander, palak, amaranth, methi, tomato, brinjal, and other things, the insect which is probably looking for food gets confused whether it is coriander, whether it is palak, whether it is tomato, whether it's because it is a mixed smell that it is getting from my house.
Right.
So that it may not come, it probably moves away. No, it may not go, it is confusing. So whether I get my food there or not. So
Right.
that kind of mixed cropping system, so if we follow, generally the insect incidence itself is less.
Right.
Second issue, as I was telling you, is probably follow all the processes and practices so nicely by adding maybe good quality compost, right time, regular watering, good quality water, maybe often feeding the crops with maybe different type of liquid nutrients like Jevamrita, Sasyamrita and other things at intervals, maybe at the time of flowering, at the time of fruiting, at the time of ripening. So you are supporting the plant in such a manner that it is not feeling any dearth of nutrients there.
Right.
So that kind of situation, your plants will be robust enough that it knows how to manage the insect on its own. But
Right.
sometimes, as I was telling you, for the sucking pests, you may have to take up some spray, but blindly. Blindly spray means that without even seeing the insect, that you have to think that these insects have come millions of years before us. They know how to manage us. They will somehow come, and we have to keep our plants protected by spraying, maybe after 10 days, after 25 days, after 35 days, after 55 days. Without seeing the insect also, you have to keep spraying. Spraying what? Even the powerful water spray is sufficient without adding anything.
Right.
So this is something that you are intervening. So you are not allowing that particular insect to come and colonize. If what one insect comes, that when you spray it, it will par down. Probably after 2 days, after 3 days, probably after 1 week, you spray again. But if it is trying to come and colonize, you are spraying and you are again removing from the plant. So that insect feels that very uncomfortable. No, I am not happy here. Probably this fellow is not allowing me to grow. Maybe my children, they cannot survive here. So it will try to move away. So that way you have to keep intervening regularly in this growing system. So instead of maybe only water, you can think of adding soap nut and shikakai based extract. So little maybe put maybe 50 grams of soap nut, crush it, soak it, filter it, and spray. Neem oil. So in houses that we have chili, ginger, garlic, we can make the paste out of it, take the filtrate and spray on the plants. Again, you are trying to confuse. See, when you spray chili, ginger, garlic extract on tomato, so that particular insect which has to feed on tomato gets confused whether it is chili, ginger, garlic, tomato. So you are trying to confuse the insect. So that way there are so many other methods. See, we also as scientists, that we also have made a combination called a unique combination called Sasya Rakshak. So blindly keep spraying on the plant every 15 days so that your plants are protected. So not after seeing the insect, that will not work. That is in the farmer's field. So after seeing the insect, if you want to spray, you have to think of spraying maybe a neuro poison or a respiratory poison in 30 minutes time, that it will fall down and die. Here in my case, that it is to protect my plant. I don't want to kill the insect. If they want to survive elsewhere, go and survive, let them survive, because they have rights to live. So for me, I want to grow my plant healthily. Anyway, I have taken sufficient care. So at the same time, I am giving this kind of supports little bit, so that the plant is tolerant enough to manage the pest pressure. So that way, simple methods that we need to adopt. Killing is not the purpose. Protecting the plant is the purpose. So that way, even many times, one is that plant pest that you said. Similarly, diseases, there will be fungal pathogens, there will be plant pathogens, there will be virus like the COVID. So on the plants also we will see the pathogens. So some of these simple methods that we need to adopt, maybe for the fungal pathogens, even the shikakai spray is very good. Even the sweet flag, Kannadದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಜೆ ಬೇರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So even the sweet flag extract that you can use hing in buttermilk. So that is also kind of spray. So that way, so you have to think of some methods which are there in your kitchen, in your house, probably without going to an pesticide shop or agro supply, agrochemical shop. So you should be in a position to manage. If it goes beyond control, sir, I tried all the suggestions that you made, but it is not happening. Probably as the last option we will think of, probably, see, you are not a farmer. If you say that if it is okay, sir, no problem, and if one or two plants are killed, what happens? It is not my livelihood, I will have a new plant. Then you are very good. Probably you have understand this urban biodiversity, the destruction that what we have made over years, and it is much easier to understand and probably have a new plant instead of taking care of that kind of plant.
Right. I think very interesting to kind of have the insect view or point of view into this whole thing. So thank you so much for actually giving us that insight. Definitely a lot of takeaways from
That
there.
means, yeah,
Yes, sorry.
you have to draw that line that
Right,
I am not a farmer, I
right,
am a gardener.
right,
So that difference, if you draw now, all these things that you only will start putting the logics, and probably you will differentiate a farmer and a gardener,
right,
farming and gardening. So
right,
that difference that we should understand, that is that is the purpose that we are doing from so many years, maybe as Garden City farmers, as the Uta from your Tota, or the well where I get my food, Biological Research Innovation Center and Solutions. So all this idea is to educate and make urbanites aware on this aspect, that you are not a farmer, you are a gardener. So
right.
that line that you should draw.
Right. So definitely that is distinction between being a farmer and a gardener, and what are our own limitations and what are our own advantages. And also, I think something that you really said is it's about fostering ecosystems, right? It's not just about you and your own food, but it's also about giving space to these insects, these birds, these animals, their share of food as well. If they are, causing an issue or coming in your way, try to divert them into another way. Not, the solution is not to end their life. So definitely the idea is to foster ecosystems, which brings me to something else, which is the use of the synthetic detergents and plastic, and how this is harmful to the ecology in general, and how it kind of comes in the way of a lot of things. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, and what are different alternates? Of course you mentioned a few, but if you could
Yeah,
talk in detail.
now specifically, as you because we are as scientists. See, when we started promoting this the gardening and other things, for me as a farmer, so gardening is not difficult. For as a farming scientist, not difficult. But
Right,
when we started promoting, we got many questions as such that, see, sir, we don't have water. So then the issue of synthetic detergents came. So we cannot use the synthetic detergents when you are using this water. That is also grey water.
right,
See, the only thing is that grey water cannot be used for plants as such on a continuous basis. You know, one day that if you put little bit of soap water, maybe a kind of nutrient to the plants, and somehow, see, because these synthetic detergents also will have lots and lots and lots of salts
right,
made out of maybe phosphorus, made out of sulfur, many ingredients, different type of ingredients that what we have in our soaps and detergents, that they are all having this kind of salts. So that means that they are not safe if you are using on a regular basis. That's
right,
what we are seeing. Maybe as many of our lakes are having too much of weeds. Some kind of plants will grow very robust, very rigorously. You are not in a position to even manage. You cannot remove. That is because of the kind of nutrients that we are adding into this, which are going from our houses,
right,
and they are all blocking the maybe runways. They are all blocking the rivers, so we are getting the floods and other things sometimes that you cannot manage. So all these things that you have to look at, that how can we manage. That is the problem of synthetic. Apart from that, synthetic detergents, they are highly carcinogenic, many of them unnecessarily we are using. So today we are having a problem of cancer in every fourth house, that we are having a cancer patient. There are some places where every house is having a cancer patient. There
right,
are places in Punjab and other places where there is a train which goes directly to the cancer hospital, which is called cancer train.
right,
So that kind of situation we are in today, and if we are not realizing that, it is all because of the practices that we are following in our houses. One is synthetic detergent. So alternatives are available. Synthetic detergents are many. Maybe in your washing machine that you are using the detergent, you are using in your dishwashing area, maybe different kind of cleansers. So
right,
surface cleaning. So for that also, that you get one maybe half-liter material and use one spoon, and it will give a very good smell. I understand probably many of you may be looking at, but the in the as a result, what happens? See, toilet cleaner, we are using acids. The toilet cleaner, what is the purpose of using this in the toilet cleaner? You want to clean it, whether you want to clean it or whether you want to kill it. That is the
right,
issue. So you
right,
want to clean your toilet, you want to clean your commodes, you don't want to clean these microorganisms and other things which have very significant role in degrading the waste that what you have produced.
Right.
So you have to clean them, probably slowly move them so that they will do that job in the water bodies or in the waterways.
Right.
So that way you need to look at that. I want the cleaning mechanism than the killing mechanism. So maybe the our shirts and this one. So if it is clean, what is that is more than sufficient. That's what you are looking at. So why you want to use this kind of synthetic detergents, which are highly dangerous in the water bodies, in the ecosystem, in the soil environment? So as you were telling earlier, you have to look at the surroundings. There are so many other thousands, lakhs of organisms which have rights to live, which have come to this place millions of years before us. So
Right.
for that purpose, I am just telling that there are alternatives available now. For the synthetic, see the synthetic, take the history of synthetic detergents. How many years? 125 years, 130 years. So before that, how people were washing, cleaning their clothes? So the much of this synthetic detergents, the value came only in the Second World War, not before that. So people were not using, industries were not there. These are all only the marketing agenda today. We are, because of all these reasons, that if we just put it that it can kill the organisms in 30 seconds. This is just a marketing. Whatever, as a scientist, you see, it is absolutely not possible to kill any organism in 30 seconds of time just because that it is giving very good foam. 100% not possible.
Right.
So it can remove, it can remove from your hand. To remove from your hand, why you want to use a killing mechanism? You can use soap net.
Right.
Soap net liquid, if you have soap net, you just crush it and soak it in water, and slowly that you press it. So you can use this. Shikakai, you can use this. You can create bioenzymes. Many in Bangalore. Say you can just go to Google and put bioenzymes. The whole process of preparation of bioenzymes, maybe with citrus, lemon, oranges, or many other fruit peels. So you can use, convert that into a very good fermenting medium, and add little bit if you want, because bioenzymes will not have foam, and somewhere we have in our mind that without foam, without lather, it may not clean. So if you want to add little bit of soap net, that you put it into that, then it can give, you can use it as shampoo, you can use it as maybe dishwash, you can use it for washing your clothes. The disadvantages with bioenzymes are there, I agree, because it is a fermenting mechanism, it is the microorganism, there may be some smell, so you have to avoid smell. So if you don't want to use bioenzymes, use this God's gift, the soap net and shikakai. See, as scientists, so we have formulated, we have developed this soap net and shikakai extract into modern day living. See, maybe for your washing machines, for the toilet cleaning, for the surface cleaner, for the maybe dishwashing, as shampoo, as face wash, as body wash, as hand wash, especially during this COVID time. See, so many people who are more aware, using continuously alcohol and other things, hydrogen peroxide based your hand sanitizers. Many of us know that it is not good, but suddenly people started telling that without using hand sanitizer and other things, it is highly dangerous. For us, as as the promoters of these natural products, that we got very good response during this time. People have started using all these natural origin materials, and they are very happy. They are as efficient, as these products are as efficient as any of your synthetic detergents, take
Right.
from me.
Right.
So only thing is that, so you have to have that awareness. You should not be comparing this with a chemical detergent or a
Right.
synthetic detergent
Right.
where you get that much of foam. So you should think, no, it is not natural origin. It cannot produce that much of foam, but it can clean, and that is my purpose. So
Right.
that way, if you start thinking, so you can surely use the many of these natural origin materials. We call it as Eco Swachh and Eco Sattva. These are the two products made out of soapnet and shikakai, every available online throughout the country, of course in Bangalore, in different places. Then next point is the plastics. A simple example that I will put, but plastics, we think that we don't have alternatives to plastic, so we have started using plastics everywhere. But at
Right.
least think of reducing, say no to plastic. Where you can say no to plastic, that you start thinking. So maybe you can always learn to drink and tender coconut without straw.
Right.
So straw is highly dangerous. Straw, see Bengaluru example, if you take in the whole of Bengaluru every day, of course now because of the pandemic and other things it may not be there, but on a regular basis, on an average, every day Bengaluru needs 3 lakhs of plastic straws for different purposes. 3 lakhs. So what it cannot be recycled. So we also just use the straw and throw it somewhere, and it will go into the drain, and probably finally to the maybe the river or the sea. And many organisms in the sea. See, there are. If you go to Google and see how the turtles get affected
Right.
with the straw getting into its nose and other things.
Right.
So otherwise, so if it is there in that also, slowly that it gets degraded, taking hundreds of years. And what it gets, it will not digest into something which is useful. It is called microplastics. Or otherwise, the many of our leaders have given examples. Take a milk packet. So what we generally do is that you will just cut it and probably pour this into your milk cooker or maybe any vessel. And what you do is that you just throw it in, maybe we are sensitive enough, and we have started using maybe a dry bin. So there is two pieces. One is the big piece, the small piece. Big piece probably somebody will take and use it and segregate it. What happens to the small piece? So that will go to the soil, and it will take hundreds of years. It will convert into microplastic and hydrated. You somehow think that it is not having any problem, but it gets into the soil system, microorganism, living system, sometimes water. It can come back. So there is a possibility. So just imagine that in your house, in our house, that we have a milk packet, we have a curd packet, we may get so many other materials packed in plastic covers. So if you are cutting this into small piece, so a small adjustment, don't cut it, just open it, pour it, so it is attached to the main part, so that it is not separated. So just imagine Bengaluru, just think of 25 lakh households in Bengaluru. And I am taking a rough estimate. 25 lakh households means every household cuts one milk packet. 25 lakh small pieces getting into your soil and water bodies.
Right.
So that much of awareness that we should bring in. Say no to plastic. We have started saying no to plastic covers. We have started using the cloth covers, cloth bags, and other things. We have started saying, see, for my example, in my house, that we are not buying the cooking oil in plastic bottles. See, we get in only steel cans, maybe 3 liters of steel cans. Every time that I give that can and take a new can.
Right.
So that at least for me, that I have a responsibility. I don't want to use plastic. I want to, wherever possible, milk packets. Yes, I agree that there is no alternative. That you at least don't cut it, don't make into small pieces and use it. So that way, plastics, say no to plastic. When you have thinking of this, segregate nicely, properly, and put it in that manner, so that it will not get into a microplastic form. Microplastic is highly dangerous, and microplastic is one among the reasons for the problems that we face, especially the cancer. The microplastic is one of the reasons that it is a reason for cancer. So all of us have a responsibility. All of us have a responsibility. For you, especially youngsters, the juniors who are all listening on the other side. So you are all the next generation. We always think, see, if I spend 15 minutes of my time, 50 minutes of my time today, that I always think that it will have the repercussions for next 7 generations. So not for the immediate benefit or something like that. So that way you should look at that your actions should speak, and your action should help the ecosystem and our surroundings.
Right. I think that kind of sums up the entire conversation and the purpose of our initiative also at Dialogues. We want to have these important conversations. We could definitely go on and on about this conversation, but unfortunately we have to wind up. So on a parting thought, we are celebrating Home Kitchen Garden Day, last Sunday of August. Any last thoughts, any last tip that you would like to give everybody who's joined us?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, see, my suggestion is that we should adopt green lifestyle somewhere. So
Right.
we should always look at whatever that I am using, that it should be degradable, biodegradable, and it should not be adding anything dangerous to the society. So
Right.
that way, one is that urban foodscapes. When I say urban foodscapes has three parts. One is growing your food. At
Right.
the same time, to grow your food, you need compost. Convert the wet waste into compost. To
Right.
grow your food, you need water. Don't
Right.
use potable water for gardening. Use recycle, reuse that water. Probably follow the safe grey water practices. In
Right.
simple terms, if you follow all these things, yes, automatically that you are helping the ecosystem. So
Right.
that way, the last Sunday of August is the World Kitchen Garden Day. From 2011, since we formed the Garden City Farmers, this last Sunday of August that we have started conducting an event, that Uta from Your Tota event, we have not missed. Only thing is, this time what we are missing is our founder president, Dr. B.N. Vishwanath. So he is not there today for the first time. This is the 36th event of Uta from Your Tota we are conducting, and
Right.
first time that we are missing Dr. Vishwanath, and we are conducting this Uta from Your Tota. Probably is a tribute. He's seeing there from there, that what we are all doing and how we are trying to take his legacy forward. So
Right.
that way, Sunday that we have this event Uta from Your Tota, which will be streamed live on YouTube. So many of you are the people who have joined today on Facebook Live. I request all of you to log into Organic Terrace Gardening. That is the YouTube channel. So you can all see. So the idea is probably to spread awareness. So we are taking you maybe one or two terrace gardens, one or two balcony gardens. There will be a gardening workshop. So over a period of time, probably we will also try to help you to different practices of terrace gardening or the balcony gardening. So that way, simply finally, see, all of you or me, that if I am telling you, probably I have that conviction. I with that capacity only I am telling. Adopt green lifestyle. That is the need of the hour. And if you want to keep this place livable for the generations to come, that is the only option.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we have a lot of takeaways and a lot of introspection to do from today's conversation. But thank you so much for giving us so much time. Thank you for letting us understand this. And thank you for giving us so many perspectives into this. We really thank you. And we hope that, Mr. Vishwanath's soul rests in peace. And we hope that this initiative is taken forward. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Shruti. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
all listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really hope that this has helped a lot of other people as well. Keeping that in mind, thank you guys. Thank you for joining. Stay safe and stay positive. We'll see you guys next week with another interview with another individual who is doing great work. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.